Radio at its finest.
Good evening. Welcome to our University of Dubuque football show here on UDSpartans.com as we're about ready to put a lid on the Dubuque Spartans season for 2023. Head coach Stan Zwiefel joining us for a final time for the 2023 season, and the Spartans ending the year on a victorious note this past Saturday as they went to Luther College and came home with a 42-10 victory, sending this team out with a win, and senior class members with a victory in their final game of the season. And, Coach, it's always great to finish with a win and as a decisive victory.
Not only for the seniors, I think, one of the things in football, you get, as we've mentioned many times, so few contests. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, we don't get again to play till next September, and that seems like a long, long ways away. And, again, you just never know in the game of football who will come back and play and all those kind of things. So we played really well, Tim. Didn't punt in the game. I thought we really rallied and pursued the football on our defensive side. And Casey Moore had another fantastic game, going 30 out of 37 for 380 and 5 touchdowns, and that's our backup, So I felt like he had a really outstanding year. I think he's got a chance to be an all-conference quarterback. But all things being said, we played really well.
And I know after last week's program, you're interested to see how your team would respond after such a gut-wrenching loss the week before. But you moved on from that and came away, like I said, a 42-10 win. Luther got on the board first, but then, you responded with 4 unanswered touchdowns.
Yeah, we drove it down and missed a short field goal, Tim, and then they made a big play and they went ahead 3-0. And I wasn't sure how we'd respond because I had talked to you about, it's hard to put the Co game to bed when it was such a really a tough loss mentally as well as physically, and it was a very physical game. And I told you, Tim, we didn't practice really hard the week of Luther just because of that. And so after that 3-0 thing, I was thinking, I wonder how this thing go. And then we just, Tim, we just really didn't punt like I mentioned, but just really dominated the play of the game. And their only touchdown came on kind of a broken play where one of our DBs came out of coverage. But we played everybody that made the trip, and there were 65 of them. Got a lot of our backups playing almost the entire fourth quarter. So good feeling leaving the field, Tim. Everybody plays. You have a big win. And after that huge loss against Co, which I'll think of a long time, it was good to have that happen that way.
Mm-hmm. Just putting some numbers on the win, 537 yards offensively for the Spartans, 137 for Luther, just 10 first downs, and you sacked their quarterback 6 times. And so the defense just continued to do what they've been doing.
Yeah, the last 4 games, Tim, we've really been doing a great job defensively. We led the conference in sacks. I think we had 27 in 8 games. And I had said last year at this time, Tim, that was one of the areas that we had to improve on. Ben Ratchet had a hell of a game again. He led the conference in sacks with 8. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't the only one. We were able to get him some single blocking on their tackle because our front was really able to get some penetration on their interior 3. And, of course, they've had a tough year, Tim. They've really had a tough year. And I was talking to Coach Troche before the game, and it's tough. It's tough when you're 0-9. And I told our team prior to coming out in the game that I thought one of the most important things was to start fast in the first quarter and make sure they didn't feel like they had a chance in the game.
Luther didn't rush the ball well, -7 yards rushing, 144 yards passing, and like I said, just 10 first downs. Conversely, you had 25 first downs. Like I said, 543 yards of offense, 6 of 14 on third down. Luther was 1 of 12 on third down. So, again, you got them off the field pretty quickly, and they didn't. I think I saw like a 6 or 7 play drive maybe they had.
And a couple of their the 2 drives that you're talking about, Tim, both were unbusted plays. Quarterback got outside the pocket. In a one play, our defense came out of coverage to try to tackle him, which you never do. But anyhow, all that being said, we did dominate the fronts on both sides of the ball. One thing about Casey, he threw for 350 or 347, whatever it was, Tim, but he also was our leading rusher with 50 yards. The last 3 games we put in a little bit of some runs for our quarterback because we thought he was a physical kid and had some ability to run the ball and just add a little bit more dimension. We actually put it in the week before we played Co to get it ready for Co is the plan that we had. And after we used it at Co, we continued a little bit. But he did a good job executing what you call a zone read, and he's just had a heck of a year.
He has, and Paul Meisner, Sports Information Director, just let us know before the show started, second time he's been named the overall Male Athlete of the Week in the American Rivers Conference. Third time as the Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah,
so
pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's
that was
impressive.
more than Honest or Michael Sweefel did in those years.
Oh my goodness!
And those were pretty special players for us 10 years ago. And again, that speaks of really the job that Casey did. And again, our offensive line did a great job protecting. We were second in the league in sacks given up, and I really felt that we played better. Tim, I think I had mentioned to you about 3 or 4 weeks ago, one of the things that I think we've done here, we being our team and our coaching staff, is we've always finished pretty strong. We've always played our best football the second half of the season. And we're 5-5, just disappointing as heck, Tim. I can't put into words. But you win the co-game, you end up being 6-2, and it's kind of a repeat of last year where we felt pretty good about ourselves. And, of course, I don't know if the viewers know, Cole gets into the national playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Wartburg does. They're the number 1 rated team, and then the 6th rated team out of our conference is Central. So we had Wartburg, Cole, and Central in the top 7 in the Midwest, whatever you want to call that. So we played some really good competition. Central beat us very badly. We could have played those guys 10 times in that day. We wouldn't have got close, but we actually played our best football against Wartburg and Co., the 2 top teams in the league. So there's some silver linings there, Tim. You got, it's hard to talk about it when you're 5-5 and 5-3. It just is. It's hard to talk about it. We lost Wittenberg by a point, and UW Platteville, other non-conference opponent that we lost to, is an outstanding football team. So I think there's some really nice things that happen, but not enough of them, Tim. Just not enough of them.
And we'll maybe talk a little bit more about retrospect on the season as we go along here. But back to the game, receiving-wise, boy, I mean, we talked about Casey's performance, but spread the ball all over the place. I mean, you got Hunter Preston, 6 catches, 95 yards.
Career game for him, Tim. That was a career game for him. 2
touchdowns for him. Cameron Bryce, 7 catches. Torrey Butts, 5. The tight ends really getting involved, both of them. Nathan Benke and Jamari Jenkins, 6 catches, 4 catches respectively. So getting everybody involved.
If you look at our statistics, one of the things that's been different about this team this year than my other teams is we've usually had 1 or 2 receivers who have dominated the number of catches. Mm-hmm. And this year we've spread that ball around. I mean, I think we have 5 over 30 catches, and we have 3 over 40 catches, and we have 2 over 50. So we have done a really nice job of spreading that ball around. Makes you harder to defend. We've done a really good job, Tim, I mentioned earlier, but our quick game and our option game has allowed us to protect a lot better than we have in the past. So I think there were some really good pluses, and that showed up Saturday. And, of course, Sir Cameron Bryce has had just a phenomenal year. He's had a phenomenal year. We have our all-conference voting on Wednesday morning. I think this is probably – I've been here 15 years now, Tim, and I think this is the best the league's had for receivers since I've been here. I'm talking from 1 to 7. And so it'll be very difficult for Z to get that first-team all-conference, but he's well deserving of it because he's had a marvelous year. And then I think we have the best tight end, one of the best tight ends in the country. I really do, especially in the measurables for a tight end. Catches, run after catch, big play, and he is devastating on blocking the perimeter in our screen game. And our screen game has been outstanding. He's a big reason about that.
Mm-hmm. 14 points in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, so consistent there. And then, final 42-10 over Luther. So anything else about the Luther game that sticks out that you want to bring out?
As I mentioned, we got to play everybody. That's really a wonderful thing in your last football game. We had a number of kids that we took on the trip, and I'll tell you, Tim, we took them on the trip because they had practiced hard in the previous 12, 13 weeks. They've been great team players. I kind of felt that maybe this would be a chance for in a college game. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. But we took probably 8 or 9 players we don't normally take on the road to give those guys an opportunity to play in a college game. And it all worked out for us.
Yeah, whenever you can get those guys game experience, there's the amount of practice time to get them game experience is very helpful going forward.
And it's a reward too, Tim. It is a reward to people working hard during the course of the season.
So again, final score 42-10 over Luther College, and finish out the conference portion of your schedule 5-3, 5-5 in the American Rivers Conference, and just brought along the season statistics and talk about that a little bit, Coach. I mean, you look up and down your season stats, and you were 31 points a game to 25 for your opponents, and rushing yards, holding opponents to 912 yards, under 1,000 yards rushing in those 10 games.
Outstanding.
That's outstanding. And I mean, as you just look at those numbers offensively, averaging 438 yards a game, 329 yards for opponents, and so did a lot of great things.
And really,
this
Tim,
season.
if you take the second half of the season, those statistics would even be more skewed for us, because in the early part, we did not play as good a defense nor as good as offense as we did at the end. And so there's a factor there. Obviously, as I told you before, I mean, we really the game that really we keyed for, which I thought was a huge game in our season, was Cole. And we lost that game in overtime. We can debate all the other stuff that happened in that Cole game. And we can debate that for a long time, can't we?
You probably will.
Yes, I probably will, Tim. And I also say to the kids, can't do anything about it. Just move on to the next game. But I felt we got better, and that's a mark of a good team. But I will tell you this, Tim, the day we had our final meeting with the squad before they go home for Thanksgiving break, and before we start the off-season program, and one of the criticisms I had of this team is we did not practice as well as we should have. And we're a young team in some cases and not so. But I think, as I talked all the time, as you heard me talk, I said, how you practice is how you're going to play. And I just thought we could have been better this year than we were, than the 5-3 and 5-5. But we'll have to save that for next year and see if we can't get that more imprinted in our kids' minds to practice harder and better.
What separates a team that practices the way you want them to, opposed to maybe not quite as hard?
That's a wonderful question. You practice the first half of the season about 2 hours and 45 minutes, and it's a son of a gun because they're hard, they're long, it's warm, et cetera, et cetera. But in the second half, we go down to about an hour and 45, an hour and 55 minutes. And when I say practice hard, I don't mean about the physical aspect. I mean about the focus and not making mistakes, not jumping off sides, not dropping passes, not getting lined up. This team had some problems with that, Tim, during the practice part. It's hard not to give effort when I'm coaching because I'm pretty hard on the kids if they're not. But mistakes are a lack of concentration, a lack of focus, and I thought that showed up a couple times during our practice week.
Well, as you look forward, I mean, another thing on the calendar is you hope to get as many guys as possible recognition for the American Rivers Conference, and there are, like you said, a lot of good players in the league this year. So that's really difficult. And before we talk about that, I mean, we talked a little bit about the conference this year, but in your 15 seasons as part of the American Rivers Conference, Iowa Conference, what would you say as far as, top to bottom this year compared to
I would tell you
past?
this, Tim, exactly. I would think our conference has made great strides in national recognition the last 4 years.
A lot of times you'd only get one team for
we
the playoffs.
got 2 in this year, which is outstanding. I think the last time that happened might have been 2016. I think it was Cole was the second team that year because I remember going down watching play Elmhurst. But, one of the things, and I'm not crediting me, but when I first got here, we were playing Rockford was scheduled. And I'm not playing Rockford, and that's nothing against Rockford. I'm playing the UW schools. I'm playing St. John's. I'm playing UW. I'm playing people that, as I've always told you, we're going to play a game that, oh, my God, you're going to have to play your best game to win it.
I was waiting for Mount Union to come on the schedule here.
It hasn't worked out yet, my friend. And then I'd play a game that I think is a toss-up game, like playing a Cole or a Central in your league. You got to play well, but you got a great chance to beat them. And so when we've done that, when I first got here in 2011, that's when I first was able to start scheduling, we started playing those folks. And it's been interesting to me as we've moved along, people are playing better opponents in the conference. Before, they weren't playing the same kind of competition before we got on board. So I think there's been a reflection of that. But what's been the really strong reflection, I think, in the last 2 years is the number of fourth and fifth year seniors that are playing. And now you're playing with a 23-year-old. In the WIC, that's all they're playing with. They gray shirt their freshman class. So those guys as seniors are fifth-year kids, 23 years old. And there's a physical difference between a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old. I think that's been one of the pluses for the WIC. Our league got to do that because of the COVID year, obviously. And so you can see some of our teams exhibiting that kind of strength and size. We haven't had as many fifth-year players, and I'll be frank with you, Tim, why we haven't. The dang cost of going to school is relatively expensive, and I can't ask a kid to come back for his fifth year if he's going to have to pay $25,000. I just can't do it. I can't do it in my own mind. So we don't have as many fifth-year players as Wartburg, who gave free tuition. Anybody came back for their fifth year, they didn't have to pay tuition. Now, that's a pretty significant part of, in your billfold. So I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you that's the reality of the situation. Now, again, I think that's great for our league, and I think our league is being recognized. And when this happens, Tim, you start seeing that stuff, first of all, in All-American teams is where you start to see it across the country, where you're going against other spots. When I first got here, we were 14th. The Iowa Conference rated 14th. I think we've been as high as 7th. That's not due to me. I'm just saying when I first got here from Whitewater, we were 14th in the league, and we moved up significantly. So I think people are recognizing the league getting better.
No doubt about that. Very, very true. And as you look at teams like you said that had the fourth and fifth year players, that's maybe that gets skewed a little bit compared to teams of the past.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
Had fourth and fifth year players stick around for that. But, so and good luck to Coe College and Wartburg College in the pursuit of national championships. So
and Coe has Aurora, who's 10-0, and that's who we're opening up with next year, Tim. That's our opening non-conference game is Aurora. Good scheduling there, my friend, again. And then we got UW-Platteville, who is a WIC. They're going to always be in the upper half of the WIC. Two really good games. I think Coe is going to have an outstanding chance to beat Coe. Beat Aurora. Here's what I think about Coe. Really good defensively. Dang, they play good defense. And they run the ball. Coe is kind of like a Central, throwing the ball, hurry-up tempo, moving around. They got a great tailback. And if you get light in the box, they give it to that kid, and then they've got a great quarterback who throws the ball around. Coe has seen that a couple times, so I think that'll help in the preparation part of it. And I do think they're going to be more physical up front with their fronts than Aurora. Now, Wartburg, they could make a really big run. I think they're just starting to get healthy. We mentioned as we were talking here with Coach and you before we started the radio show is Clausen is a great back. I've never seen a tougher kid in our league since I've been here. And if they can get that run game going back, they're going to be hard to stop because defensively, oh, my God, do they give you fits. Their front seven is outstanding. They got three guys in the back end who I think could be All-American players. And so I really think Wartburg can make a run here.
Well, let's talk about some of your Spartans. We talked about, guys that you're going to be putting up for American Rivers Conference honors, and not everybody can get that, but there's some guys definitely that you're making a pitch for that have
I would start
done
with
well in the league.
Ben Rashid, our defensive end, who led the conference in sacks.
Yep.
And he has played an outstanding senior year. He's had 8 sacks. I think he's had 10 tackles for loss and 8 assisted tackles for loss. When I watch the tape, people know where they're trying to identify where he's coming from and put their protection in him. I think he's the number one guy on our defensive side of the ball. I really felt Dalton Wood, our safety, who was second team all-conference last year, is kind of the guy that gets us lined up and puts us in position to make plays, and he's just a steady player and physical. And again, our safeties didn't get challenged much this year, Tim. Brock Carter and him, because Brock's another great player. They didn't have the statistics because they were throwing the ball on the edge on the perimeter. Alex Rashid, a freshman who started for us, is going to be the best corner I've had here, and that includes Michael Joseph. He's going to be the best college corner we've had here when he's done. He doesn't have the same flat-out ability that Michael had, but I've never seen a guy play harder.
And he played one-handed a lot of the year.
One-handed for 8 games, my friend. Yeah, that really inhibited his tackling part of it. And then our inside linebackers, C.J. Dean and Garrett Hertzfeld, will be up for honors. On offense, I'm nominating Casey Moore as a quarterback, and he led the conference in total offense. He led the conference in passing offense. And he did that, that was, like I said, that was our number 2 coming into the season. So proud of him. I nominated both Sheets and Cameron Bryce at wide receiver. I thought they both had really good years. And I think the guy that should be the all-conference tight ends, Jamari Jenkins, in measurables for tight ends, catches, yards, and touchdowns. He led the conference by far. 2 offensive linemen and Jack Connors, our left tackle, who was a first-team all-conference pick a year ago. And then Wesley Spitzmiller, our center, who makes all our calls, changes our protection and our line, blocking adjustments, did a really, really good job. So those are guys I think are going to have a chance. Again, like anything else, Tim, we're 4th place, so we're not going to get the same number that Wartburg does at 10-0. We all know that's a fact of life. Coe's 9-1. They're going to get their share. Central's 8-2, 6-2 in the league, 1 game above us, and we'll get our share. I don't think we'll get everybody that we want to have, but I thought our guys did, and I don't want to leave out our special teams now. Yeah. Connor Halla led the conference in punting. That's the first time since I've been here that we've had a person other than a Central kicker lead the conference in punting. So, God damn it, I expect him to get it. Mm-hmm. And then we have a tremendous long snapper, Logan House, who's had a great year long snapping for us. No block punts, no block extra points in the league, and only 1 missed field goal in the league play. So those are 2 really good special team players.
Yeah, statistical leaders on offense, rushing-wise, Devin Moore, 412 yards rushing for you. And that was an area where you were dinged up all year long.
Oh, my gosh.
There was one game I know I was in your office, and you didn't know if you were going to have a running back.
We were going to play our 5th running back.
Yeah.
And you know what? Callion Buckner, who was 2nd in the league in rushing a year ago, played 2 games. Mm-hmm. And our number 2, Lavelle Armstead, played 4 games. I don't say that, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. You've got to play with injuries. But this is the most nicked up that we've been since I've been here. And unfortunately, it hit our backs harder than any other place.
Talked about Casey Moore, 2,717 yards, 27 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. And the offensive line did a great job, just very few sacks for him. Then Cameron Bryce, your leading receiver, 891 yards and 10 touchdowns. And, of course, he had some receivers dinged up there. Wade Sheets and Torrey Butts didn't play every game. Yeah,
Sheets missed 4 games and Butts missed 3.
Yep, and
Hunter Preston had a phenomenal game against Luther. I told him after the game, it's the best game he played in college. And I'm hoping that's really a springboard for him because he had a really nice senior year at Dubuque Senior and really did a nice job.
So that finishes up talking about the Spartans a little bit, 5-5, 5-3 in American Rivers Conference play. And, Coach, you mentioned, I don't know if it was your last team meeting, but, just talk about what this week consists of and then what goes forward for your University of Dubuque football team in the offseason.
Yes, so first of all, this week is kind of a decompression week. They don't have anything as far as weightlifting goes. They have individual position meetings with their position coaches where they have an exit interview. We ask them maybe 12, 14 questions about how we can improve, about how they can improve, etc. Try to get some kind of general consensus from them. And then we have a Thanksgiving break for a week, Tim. It just is, we do, and I'm not sure why that happens, but we do. So they go home. Most of our kids will leave Thursday or Friday of this week and be gone for 9 days, and they'll come back on November 27th. We'll have 1 week of school, and then you have finals. Wow, that's really
I'd have loved to have that when I was in school.
I might not ever got back, Tim. I might not ever got my degree. Had enough time as it was.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that part doesn't allow you to do any weight training during that time because you don't have them. So what we do when they get back on November 27th, we introduce them to the 4-day-a-week program that we're going to have, show them what we're going to do, set their times, but then they take off on the second week in December and won't be back till January 6th. And then January 6th, I think it's the 6th or the 7th, we start in earnest in our off-season program. Lifting Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday is a recovery day. And we do that till we get to spring. And spring will be somewhere in March. We're not sure what yet. We'll kind of wait and see how those things all shake out. But one of the things that's been very difficult here, Tim, and I've talked to you about it before, we only have January, February, and 1 week in March to have uninterrupted weight training for our players. That is difficult, especially when we get done the last week in April, and then they're gone May, June, July. So I tell our guys the most important lifting you're going to do is going to be after you get home in April. And again, it's not always ideal like you'd like to have it. I think that's shown up on our football team in a number of positions as we moved along. Probably never affects the skill like it would the offensive and defensive line, but it does affect those guys because being in the weight room might be the single most important thing they do for us. So that part, it is what our schedule is. That's something we have to live with. I don't make those decisions. I wish I did because I change them, but I don't. And so you live with what you're taking place. And again, what you hope is, Tim, this is a disappointing year for the coaching staff and the players. You know, all the things about, you got to remember what a bad taste you have in your mouth when you lose. And I'm hoping that will spur us and motivate us to that part. We've got a lot of good players coming back. We lose a lot of good players, we do, Tim, but we got a lot of good players coming back. And hopefully we can use this last half of the season as a little bit of a springboard.
Well, Coach, you wrap up your 15th season here as head coach at the University of Dubuque, and if I'm not mistaken, this was year number 50 as a coach at
sometimes seems like 150, Tim. Let me say this: it's a I don't know, exercise in stupidity. People would say that, wouldn't they? That how can you be that damn dumb to coach that dang long? And here's what I tell you. I love our players. I don't always show that in practice and meetings, but I still think it's the most wonderful sport in the world to teach what's going to happen to you later on in life. I'm not trying to make some stupid statement. You have a lot of times where you face adversity, where things don't go your way, and man, is it frustrating. And you put in all that time and effort, and it never guarantees you're going to win. I tell our guys all the time, you can put in all the time and effort, doesn't guarantee success. But if you don't do that, you will not be successful. So again, I think there's some life lessons you can teach in that. And when I don't want to do that anymore, when I don't think that's worthwhile, then I will stop coaching.
Coach, I appreciate your time this year.
Tim, it's been a blast like always.
Hey, we have a lot of fun here in the coaching office.
We sure do, God dang it. We sure do. And, I said this last year and left, man, that came fast to come around again in August so fast. But it's good family time, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas. Good for those kids to have a little bit of time off, and we'll enjoy that part of it.
All right, Coach. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Tim.
And we'll talk to you when this season rolls around next year.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks to Nathan Ripperger, our
Nathan, thank you.
Studio producer out there. He doesn't get much credit, except we couldn't do it without him. And Paul Meisner, Sports Information Director, providing us with information. And so we appreciate the viewers as well, watching at UDSpartans.com each week for the UD Football Show with head football coach Stan Zwiefel. So that's going to wrap it up for the 2023 season. I'm Tim Larry. Have a great rest of your evening.